now it's like, no, this is actually what my body needs.
Kylie, how did you find carnivore?
Well, the moment I found carnivore was actually about 8 or 9 months after having weight loss surgery. And we were heading to Bali in a couple of months for a 4 week holiday. And my husband was very much, oh, I need to lose a few pounds. And I was like, well, you know what? The last time you lost a lot of weight, you just cut out the crap, which for him means just eating meat because he never ate vegetables anyway. So I said, why don't you just go back to doing that? And the last time he'd done that, I wasn't a naturopath, nutritionist, or anything like that. So this time I was like, oh, I need to research that that's safe in my head. I was like, oh, I need to research this. And found that this time around, because this would have been maybe 15 years ago that he did this the last time and lost a lot of weight. And so this time around, I discovered that there was a name and it was called Carnivore Diet. And I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting. And so I started just watching, all the videos to look out for anything that I might need to be aware of for him. And then because I had weight loss surgery, I had been losing a steady 1 kilo a week. And I'll tell you about that later. But I'd been losing a steady 1 kilo a week. And I thought, oh, you know what? I eat so little now. I will just eat what he eats leading up to Bali because it was just easy. And well, blow me down, I started losing 3 kilos a week and I felt better. Yeah, it was just like, oh, what's going on here? Like, this was really weird. And I come from a heavy plant-based bias background, and I was only doing it because it was convenient, and I wasn't eating much anyway. So I was like, wow. So we get to Bali, and I went because it was just a tester for me. We got to Bali, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to let myself have whatever. We're on holidays, 4 weeks, and so for the first 2 weeks, I ate a bit of everything. I'm not a terrible eater, so it was just satay sticks one day and whatever the next, garlic bread or whatever. But within 2 weeks, I was like, oh, I really miss my meat, and which that in itself was like, oh, that's weird. And so I started, or everywhere we went, I would order surf and turf or something like that, and hubby would just eat the rest of it. And I felt better. Like straight away, I was like, oh, my body missed this, which was huge for me to sort of go, this is bizarre. And so when we got back from Bali was when I seriously started to go, could this be a thing for me? Because I also have thyroid disease, and I also have something called lipedema, which is what led me to weight loss surgery. So that was how I found it. It was complete just doing what he was doing. And he innately and naturally eats carnivore because he's never liked veggies. And me having to get through my head space of, no, plants are the answer. So I'm going to go back now. So when I was 21, I developed thyroid disease and put on 50 kilos within, I don't know, 12 months, 18 months. Fatigue, yeah, it was incredible. I went from a standard, like size 10 or something to size 24, sort of seemingly overnight. I've never experienced anything like it. The worst thing was the fatigue. It took about 2 years to get diagnosed back then. So this is where I'm 53 now, so we're talking 30 years ago. People complain about it now, but back then was even, harder. I just happened to have come across a doctor who had thyroid disease. So it was a go-to thought process for her, and she diagnosed me. And so I was given my tablet. This was my new normal. Never lost the weight again. No matter what I did. So off I went. Life went on. So roll around to 40 years of age, and I was working as a cake decorator, and which is a very repetitive, you're rolling out icing and you're doing this kind of thing with the nozzle every day. So it's very repetitive. And I started getting shooting pains up and down my left arm at work, which I was like, left arm, I was freaking out. And I went to the hospital. I ended up spending a night in ER thinking I'm having a heart attack. No, you're fine. Turns out I had a pinched nerve. Turns out the inflammation was huge because thyroid disease is an inflammatory disease. It's made worse by inflammation, and it causes inflammation in its own right. So I stopped cake decorating, and it took 6 months to recover from this nerve issue and the inflammation. And so then after that, I was like, what am I going to do? I can't be a world famous cake decorator anymore, which was the plan, right? And so my husband said, well, nobody's as interested in your health as you are. Go study it. And so I did. I went back to college at 40, became a naturopath, clinical nutritionist, and herbalist. And the entire 4 years I based around thyroid health and my own health and like, how can I fix me? And it was during clinical hours that I discovered just how many people had thyroid disease. I was in my own bubble at that point and was like, oh, I had no idea so many people had thyroid disease. And so that's when I started thyroid school, continued working on myself, continued this battle of I must be able to reverse this somehow, some way. I was very plant-based. I even did the Gerson therapy, which is a plant-based therapy, for about 2 years straight. And while I lost a little bit of weight, I reversed my antibodies and all that sort of thing along the way. And I think that's simply because I cut out the processed oils, the seed oils, all the things, So, but I could never budge the weight. Somewhere along the line there, I went to a lymphatic drainage lady, and she was an oncology nurse, and she looked at me and she goes, oh, you're a lippy lady. And I went, a what? And she said, you're a lippy lady. You've got lipedema. And I'd never heard of lipedema before. It's not lymphedema. Lipedema is something that 11% of women are born with. And it's kind of like leaky lymphatics, like you'd have a leaky gut, you have leaky lymphatics. And you cannot exercise or diet away that fat that seeps out of your lymphatics into your subcutaneous. It's there. Once it's there, it's there. So that was sort of a whole new, oh, okay, I don't know what to do with this information, but I just went, right, there's a reason I've not been able to, reverse the weight. And so then when was I? 51. So a couple of years ago, I had a lady come to me through thyroid school and said, I want you to coach me through weight loss surgery. And I said, I'm not your person. I said, you need to go find someone else, because I've never considered weight loss surgery because I really don't eat much, which is a typical thyroid thing. With hypothyroid, people think that you eat too much and actually you have no appetite whatsoever. And so I said, yeah, so I'd been suggested by doctors over the years to have weight loss surgery, and I was like, I don't eat enough. I know you think I do, but I don't. So it had never been a consideration. I'd never researched it. But she was insistent, and I said to her, let me research it for, a month or so, and I'll come back to you. I started finding studies around weight loss surgery and the hormone impact on lipedema, because lipedema is hormone driven. And I started finding studies of women that had, not reversed it, but greatly helped their lipedema. So I sort of went, what have I got to lose? So I came out and I said to my husband one day, I think I'm going to have weight loss surgery. And he went, but you don't eat enough. And I went, so I've got nothing to lose, have I? So that was my theory. I had nothing to lose. And I went back to this lady and I said, you know what? I said, not only am I happy to coach you through weight loss surgery, I'm going to do it myself. By then she was like, oh, I've changed my mind. So she'd only been put in my path for me to research it. So I had the weight loss surgery in 2022, was losing the kilo a week, then husband, and then that's where the story kicks in, that would I have been able to lose the weight on carnivore? And since then, I've researched a lot about lipedema and watched a lot of the lipedema pages, and that is the diet they actually recommend, at the very least keto, but carnivore is the diet that, so I was like, oh, okay, could I have reversed it before? Maybe. we'll never know because you can't go back. But I do know from a weight loss surgery perspective, it has it changes the way I do things. You get more bang for your buck. If I can only eat this much, it's got to be better me eating steak and butter than it is a little plate of salad, right? So, yeah, so that's my story.
So I guess I just want one clarification up front because I'm not 100% familiar with either of the thyroid conditions. You have hyper or hypo?
I have hypo. I have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune driven hypothyroidism. Um, However, I reverse the antibodies. When you hear of a lot of people have reversed their thyroid disease, often it's the antibodies that they've reversed. It's always there in the background. Like if I went back to a high processed diet and that kind of thing, then those antibodies would come on back. I am still on medication for hypothyroidism, so it's too slow. But that is simply because after 30 years of taking medication, your thyroid, it's like, oh, I don't need to make any thyroid hormone. I can kick up on the couch and do nothing, right? So that's the
Gets
only reason I'm
lazy.
now. Yeah, it's very lazy because it's like, oh, I don't have to do anything. And it shrivels up. And that's why they say with thyroid disease, you're on medication for life. You don't have to be on medication for life. And I have actually reduced my medication 4 times now in the last 2 years. However, it's still sort of staying stubborn where it's at now. So I still take medication every day. But I'm still always hopeful that, you know what, why can't I reverse this? Like, there's got to be a way to reverse this to get it going again. And I think I'm certainly in a much better place of being able to do that with carnivore than I was plant-based. And I was the plant-based queen. I, on thyroid school over the years, have run plant-based challenges. Like, I was all in, right? So I'm the most surprised of anyone that I follow this lifestyle now.
So just on that, you know, prior to the weight loss surgery, you were kind of very heavily into this plant-based way of eating. I always feel like, when you're doing plant-based, you're going to be hungrier more often, and you're going to be hungry much quicker straight after eating. But it's almost like that is this little trick that in your mind you feel like, well, everything that's worth doing is going to be hard. So if I
Mm.
want to lose weight, if I want to get healthier, of course I'm going to feel hungry all the time, right? So of course I must be doing the right thing. It's almost like this. It's
Oh,
like
as
this
humans, we
self
love it
kind
to be
of
hard, don't we? Yeah.
right. It's like, well, I mean, if you're eating meat and you're feeling full, obviously there's a problem there. It can't be that easy.
Yeah. And even more so after weight loss surgery, because you can get hungry very quickly, right? Because you're only eating this amount. And funnily enough, because I'm always testing, I'm just like, when I decided I was going to go carnivore, I use confirmation bias because I'm like, right, I need to set my mind up that this is going to work. So I watched all the videos. I watch your videos. I watch all the other people's videos. And then you come across all the thyroid reverse. So, like, that's how I started. But because I'm always testing it, and we're human, so we have treat days. And I remember the very first treat day after really sticking to it for months, I was at our fancy grocery store and I was looking around going, what do we, and because hubby was like, whatever, I don't care, anything, like anything. And so I'm looking around and suddenly I found myself going, oh, I'm looking at the bread. I'm looking at all the carbs, the cakes, it wasn't chocolate or ice cream, or I was like, oh my God, it's all the carbs. I'm addicted to carbs. It was this moment in my head that I was like, oh, holy crap. I wasn't expecting that, right? And so now when I do test keto or add veggies, because I go, oh, I miss my veggies, I'll have veggies for a little, that'll be fine. A couple of things happen. I get hungry all the time. So, and when you get hungry with weight loss surgery, because there's no stomach there. I had the gastric sleeve, or VSG. My stomach hurts. It's not like, oh, I'm hungry. It's like you've been punched in the guts until you eat. It's like it hurts, right? You know that you're really hungry. And it's like, oh, wow. Not so much in the early days, but I've lost 60 kilos now. So now there's not much of me to feed off, I suppose. So now it's like, oh, no, I need to eat. So whenever I eat veggies now, I get hungry really quickly. I'm not satiated. I have to keep eating. And that leads you down the rabbit hole of eating all the wrong things. And the second thing that I only discovered literally a week ago, and I don't think you can see it, my hands, they're peeling. And I thought it was a skin cream that I was using, or a face thing that I was using, and it's only happened in the last year and a bit, which is about how long I've been sort of experimenting with carnivore. And I thought, oh, it's the hyaluronic acid, or it's the, like, I couldn't work it out until just recently, about a month ago. I had a week of eating avocado and coriander and, some of my favorite keto type foods. And I always justify it in my head. It's like Dr. Berry says, you cheat on keto. That's true. You cheat on keto, right? And then for some reason, I put it together that, oh, that's why my hand is peeling it. And then it goes away. But I've never put it together. So now it's almost gone again now. But now I can test it with purpose. Now I can, like, in a month or two, once it's completely gone, literally test it with purpose, rather than going, oh, hang on, what is it? Yeah. So they're the kind of things that happen when I eat veggies. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, they're so healthy for us. Who would have thought, It's
I know. Yeah. Killed
so
me. Yeah.
how do you eat? Because day to day, like, how many times are you eating, and is the frequency more than, say, what you would hear from a regular carnivore because you've got the gastric sleeve?
So after watching a lot of things, look, thyroid people, one of the things I worried about having the gastric sleeve was that I know very low calorie diets can cause thyroid disease, right? So the kids that they use keto diet for epilepsy, they immediately put them on thyroid medication, because very low calorie diets can cause thyroid to slow down. So when I decided to do the gastric sleeve, I just sort of went, oh, you know what? I haven't reversed the medication to now. I'm just going to have to deal with that. If it helps me, with the lipedema and other ways, then too bad. It is what it is, sort of thing. So I was willing, even though I'd been trying to reverse it all these years, I was willing to not worry about it. So I would never do intermittent fasting or OMAD or TUMAD anyway, because of that. But I still, after watching a lot of Dr. Bikram and, about insulin and that sort of thing, I still try to stick to 3 meals a day, even though those meals are small, because they're meat and fat heavy. They do generally get me through to the next meal. So generally for breakfast, I might have steak and butter, or steak with I say 2 fried eggs on top. That sounds like a lot, but I tend to eat just the runny yolk as the sauce on the meat, and the whites go in the bin. That's a common breakfast for me. Lunch would be just meat and butter again. I always keep meat in the fridge. I always keep, like, a variety of meats in the fridge, like cooked mince. Cooked beef shins is one of my favourite things from Coles. So I put them in the slow cooker and they stay in the fridge. Dinner, all over the place. Eggs are heavy again. Scrambled eggs with meat in it, or every now and again I'll have a keto wrap. That doesn't seem to cause me problems. If I have a keto wrap, as long as it's just kind of a one-off, every now and again, I can do that. But yeah, so that's kind of, it's very simple and very, like, but we repeat our meals anyway. I have people go, don't you get bored? And I'm like, no, show me a family that doesn't have spag bowl every Monday night and fish and chips every Friday night. We eat the same food. It's just that when we change our lifestyle, suddenly we go, oh, we need to have variety. Well, no, as humans, we're repetitive. That's who we are. So, yeah.
Right. The only real difference is you're not feeling hungry pretty much immediately after eating anymore, right?
Correct. That's right.
Mm.
And if I, as I said, if we go away, we go on holidays and that sort of thing, and I go, oh, I'm going to let myself eat whatever. Um, I'm hungry so quickly. And you just don't feel as switched on, as energetic and strong. I don't know, strong as but yeah. And other little things happen when or the things that have happened since carnivore are things like I don't have cracked heels anymore. Cracked heels, I had horrendous cracked heels, um, gone. I had, I haven't used fluoride for many years. That's one of the first things I changed when I was learning about thyroid disease. And so over the years, all my dentists have always gone, oh, because I always deny the fluoride, what do you call it, treatment and everything. And my teeth have always been perfect. I've never, and as I get older, they sort of say, oh, we need to take x-rays because your teeth shouldn't, you're not using fluoride, your teeth should be going bad. And I still don't have any more fillings or anything like that. But what was happening is this bottom row was starting to separate, and to the point that a year and a bit ago, my dentist, she said, oh, we need to do an x-ray to see why you're getting a gap. I was getting quite a significant gap. Since eating carnivore, it's closed up. So it's like, and I said to her, she said, oh, what's happening with that gap? And I said, it's gone. I said, it's almost closed up. She's like, I said, it's got to be carnivore. It's got to be the exercise of chewing the meat. I don't know. That's my theory.
Interesting. Um,
Mm.
so how are you how is the lipedema now that you've lost so much weight and you're eating this way now? Is it still there? And
Yeah.
how are you managing it?
Okay. So lipedema, as I said, is meant to be something that is because it's leaky lymphatics. You're born with it and you never get rid of it, supposedly. Um, it's the signs are still there. I've shown, pictures on my social media where you wearing the same outfit, 60 kilos heavier and the same. So you can still, there's very distinct signs. There's a fat pad below the knees. There's a fat pad behind the knees. You have very column-like legs. It's there. You can see these in younger teenagers, the very trunk-like legs, not necessarily overweight, but no shape to them. That is a lipedema. Also, you have what's called cuffing around the ankles, and it looks like somebody's put a rubber band around the bottom of your ankles. Yeah, so it's because the fat doesn't seem to go through to the feet and the hands, so you'll end up with this cuffing look. So um, from that perspective, I haven't. There hasn't been the cuffing is less, but I went to a pretty soon because we've had the same family doctor since she diagnosed my thyroid disease when I was 21, so 30 years, and she's great. However, after weight loss surgery, my cholesterol started rising just after weight loss surgery, and my surgeon said to me, he said, "Oh, look," he said, "there's a certain subset of patients after this that will have high cholesterol. It's just we don't know the mechanism. It's what it is." So it had already started raising before I started carnivore, and she was already on the bandwagon of, we need to give you a tablet. And I was like, I don't think so. So when I started carnivore and started watching all the videos going, okay, what am I going to do here? Then it was around about that time that I discovered that Anthony Chafee was actually doing a residency in Perth. So I'm north of Perth in Karratha in WA. Western Australia, sorry. And so I messaged him on Instagram and said, hey, thinking, he may or may not answer me. What doctor do you use in Perth? And because we visit Perth all the time to see our son. Anyway, he came back to me and he goes, yeah, this is the doctor. And so I booked in and went and saw him. And he was amazing. And he explained to me the triglycerides and all the things. And that he's like, no, 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 your ratio of triglycerides to HD is under 1. So you are gold. You're insulin sensitive now, all the things. But he did tell me that I needed to continuously take D3 and K2 for the rest of my life. He said that, but he also said, because I said to him, see these fat pads from lipedema and all these things? I said, do you think it's possible to get rid of it? He said to me, he said, I have seen bodies, physical bodies, change like nothing else with a carnivore diet. He said, you need to move and use, like, especially for the fat pads under the knees and behind the knees. He said, calf raises, you need to continuously do calf raises. But he said he said he would absolutely believe that I can reverse the signs of lipedema. Admittedly, I've got a lot of loose skin now, but that we'll deal with that later as time goes by. I've dealt with some of it. I had my arms done 6 months ago because lipedema, there's about a 30% subset of women with lipedema who get it in their upper arms as well. So my arms, massive. They were massive. And then when I lost the weight, even bigger. So they were actually folding over on themselves when I slept and cutting off circulation when I slept. So I was waking up in a panic because my arm was numb because I go sleep on my left side. So that'll happen. But he certainly said the fat pads and the signs of the lipedema, he's seen amazing things through watching women on high carb diets. So he didn't see why I wouldn't be able to.
Oh, nice. Awesome. And so how is your husband now with this? Is he kind of following along? Is he just doing his own thing?
No, no, no. For the most part, I serve us carnivore meals. Chocolate's still an issue. But he's gotten so low now because he was on blood pressure medication. And we discovered that that was pretty much what was stopping him from losing weight was the blood pressure medication. So as we went along, he reduced that and he now is just come off blood pressure medication. He was down to one tablet, like split over a week. And we went to a doctor up here who was actually like, he was amazing. He came in and we'd never seen him before. And he said to my husband, he was there for like a lump on the back of his thing. And he was like, right, what medications are you on? And he goes, right, let's get you off this. And I was like, who are you? Like, what doctor says, like, let's get you off this medication? So that was amazing. So for the most part, and same again, like right this last week, I've been making Christmas cookies for my family over East. Right. So I haven't done it in many years. And I just went, because we're planning on moving to Thailand next year. So this could be the very last year that I can make cookies and like send them in the post. So we've been, having a cookie here and there, and neither of us feel good. We feel terrible. So every time you kind of falter, to me, that's like, it's just a reminder that you don't feel good on this stuff, right? So I never beat myself up, nor does he. We just like, we go, for a walk and go, right, we need to walk this off. But I never beat myself up for it because it's like, wow, this is just a reminder to me that this is what suits me now. This my body actually, after a lifetime, and even as a child, my mum could never get me to eat meat. It was like her biggest thing. It was so a whole lifetime of eating veggie-based things. Now it's like, no, this is actually what my body needs. So whenever we have a treat or a stumble or you go on holidays or whatever, it's just a huge reminder to get back to the meat as quickly as possible. So yeah, he's doing well and getting better all the time. So yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I'm interested to know, like, when you do have that cheat, I remember, would have them a lot when I was on keto over the years, and you'd have it and you'd be able to deal with it. It's like you wouldn't suddenly start putting on weight again or anything like that. But the day after you had it, when you woke up the next day, you would feel awful, like your body's been busy all night trying to detox your body. Do you get a feeling like that?
Yeah. And every time I think to myself, oh, and in fact, the last time that I went keto, so like a month ago, I was like, right, I'm not going to have the lettuces and the spinaches. I'm going to have the herbs, because herbs are powerful things, right? I'm a herbalist. I understand what herbs can do for people. So I thought, right, instead of having a salad with all those things, I'll have a salad on herbs, coriander and parsley. And maybe that's what made it worse, but it does. It sends you down this rabbit hole. To me, it sends me down this rabbit hole of just not feeling great and of wanting more food, other food. Always without fail. The minute I start veggies, then I'm looking around going, what else is there? Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that kind of green chocolate chip cookie looks kind of like a vegetable if I squint at it or something.
Oh, it's shocking. It's shocking. It constantly amazes me. And I'm like, I'm a learner. I love learning and then sharing what I've learned, whether it's good or bad. I'm kind of always been an open book of like, wow, this happened. And that's why I will literally test the peeling on my hands in another month or two. Once they're all completely healed, I will test it because I can't help myself. I'm like, because there's this part of my brain after plants for 30 years, like, or 40, 45, 50 years, I'm like, surely not. But every time it's like, yeah.
So as a naturopath, a clinical nutritionist, do you introduce carnivore at all to your clients, and what kind of feedback do you get?
It depends on the client. You have to meet them where they're at, right? If you had have said to me 5 years ago, you need to do carnivore, I would have gone, yeah, it's not a thing. Find another solution, right? So you can't just. So first of all, you need to understand where they're at, what they're eating. If there's a lot of hormone issues at play, which with thyroid disease generally it is, but I get a lot of menopausal women as well. So then I will go, do you like meat? I had a client recently, and I said to her, you need to go carnivore. You do. She had mental health issues, menopause symptoms, so all the things that I knew carnivore could tick off, and she did. And within a week, I met her in the shops, and I said, "Can I meet you in my lunch hour and see how you're going?" And I thought, oh, I'll show her what I do on the run if I need to for carnivore. And so I'd bought and it's not ideal, but by any means, but better than a sausage roll, was ham. I'd bought ham from the deli, and I was like, this is what you can do if you're on the run and you really, need something. Anyway, so I sat down and said, how are you going? And she was about all sorts of things. And I was like, yeah, but great. How's your menopause symptoms? Oh, yeah, no, they stopped. Yeah, right. Because menopause, when you start menopause, it's not that you stop producing the hormones, your adrenals take over. And adrenals and thyroid are like a seesaw. If one's up, the other, like they're always going to interplay with one another. So, and one of the best things for putting your adrenals out of fight and flight and into is meat. It's protein. It's I've always known that you should have for your adrenals, even on plant-based, you need to eat protein within an hour of waking to get you to let your body know, oh, we're safe. We've got protein. We're good to go. So as in menopause, if you can eat more meat, calm your adrenals down, then they've got time to make those extra hormones. Otherwise, they're like, sorry, we're too busy making cortisol because you're so stressed that there's no way we're making the estrogen for you to get you through menopause. It's not going to happen, right? So, yeah,
And this is massive because menopause is just takes over your life completely, right?
totally. I got to say, I wouldn't know. I had a hysterectomy in 2015, right after I started thyroid school, actually. And I never, but I still have my ovaries. So by rights, I should have had menopause. And I've had blood tests in the last 6, 7 years where they've said, "Oh, you're in menopause." I'm like, great. What does that mean? Like, it's nothing. So I don't have, I never got any symptoms. I haven't got any symptoms. So, and by rights, I should have. So, but I'm constantly working on stress. And now I'm carnivore. I just don't need it.
So I'm interested in something you talked about before. Um, what made you decide to make to do this future move to Thailand?
Uh, We've been wanting to move to, like, we dabbled with the idea of Bali years ago because my husband's always been FIFO, like a FIFO worker, fly in, fly out for
Right.
non-Aussies. And I moved up here to be with him about 5, 6 years ago. So we went to Thailand. So we've always dabbled with, because a lot of people here FIFO from Bali because it's 3 hours from here. So
Ah, okay.
it's so close, right? So we'd always thought,
Mm.
that could be a thing, right? So uh, what happened was, though, we went to Thailand for the first time in 2020. We didn't watch the news, right? So the day we were flying to Thailand, we had all these people messaging us going, "Are you sure you want to go?" And we're like, "Sure." Like, why wouldn't we? Thailand was empty. We lined up at the Grand Palace, and where there was 8 turnstiles and what do you call it, guards. And we just walked straight in. It was like a private tour with a guy because there was nobody else there. Like, there was no one, and we were like, "Huh, there is something going on in the world." And we flew back on the 11th of March, which was the day borders got shut in Australia. We're at the airport. That was our normal fly-in day, so we were meant to be coming home anyway. Again, people messaging us going, borders are shutting, get home, get home. And we're like, yep, we're actually at the airport, we're coming home. Here's the weirdest thing. We landed in Perth and we walked down the gangplank, right, or whatever it's called. And there was 2 guys in hazmat suits, full-on hazmat suits, handing us a form saying, "These are your responsibilities. You know, you can journey home, but you've got to, isolate for 10 days," or whatever it was at the time. We kept walking around into duty free, and then all the duty free people, no suits, no masks, no gloves, were in our faces going, "Do you need alcohol for lockdown?" It was so weird. It was just so weird. Anyway, about 6 months later, because WA was it shut down pretty quickly, Western Australia. So we were in a bit of a bubble. So I think it was 6 months later, I flew down to Perth for a work conference. And hubby and I always send each other photos. I send him a photo of what I'm eating in a restaurant, and he sends me a photo of cheese toasties because that's his favourite food. He's not going without. Don't feel sad for him. He loves cheese toasties. But he'd pause the TV in the background to take the photo, and it was How to Live in Thailand for like $2,000 a month or something. And I'm like, "What are you watching there, babe?" And he was like, "Oh, we'll talk about it later." And so we started watching YouTube videos on Thailand, and as it's grown, we wanted to go a couple of years ago, but our son needed a hand buying a property because he got priced out of the rental market down in Perth. It was going insane. So we've been put back a little bit, but we're like, okay, we're nearly there. We're nearly there. We've started selling stuff. Like, we still don't know how, like, the universe decides the time frame, but we're getting close. And just for the sake of living somewhere that feels a bit freer and feels very happy, and just, and plus I'm wanderlust. I will be all over the place. I'll be visiting you in Japan. Like, it's just like, I can't wait to just experience life. from the food perspective, I'm like, oh, this is interesting because they fry just about everything in oil in Thailand. So there's that perspective where I'm like, oh, how's this going to work? But that's okay. You know, if I have to cook at home instead of eat street food all the time, I will. So we'll just work it out as we go along. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. So Kylie, how can people reach out to you?
I have Thyroid School, which is predominantly on Facebook, but I also have a small YouTube channel, which is just my name, Kylie Wolfick. And I have got a website under both Thyroid School and Kylie Wolfick. So, because I also do other things like kinesiology and human design, I like put all sorts of things together when I work with people. So, that's the different ways that people can find me.
Nice. Well, I'll link to all those in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, Kylie. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dave. It's been awesome to actually talk to you in person.